Good morning and welcome to Manufacturing Making a Difference. I'm Mike Russell, an independent business advisor working with the Best Business Growth Hub and Let's Do Business. So today we're going to talk about the Free Cooperation Agreement, which gives us no tariffs and no quotas. And we're going to look at the section which manufacturers really need to understand if they're going to be able to apply the rules to their business. We're then going to have a more specific look at the rules of origin, and we're going to talk a little bit about bilateral cumulation. Then we're going to move on to the standards section and talk a little bit about CE marks and UKCA mark. Finally, we're going to move into the way forward and help you understand where you might be able to find funds to help grow your business going forward. So the FCA Bias tells us that it changed the relationship from EU law to free trade and friendly cooperation. It's the first time the EU has agreed a free trade agreement with any trading partner that has got zero tariffs and zero quotas. And it allows the UK to recover its national independence, taking back control of our waters, our money, our borders, and our laws. And Section 2 is the section that we need to consider if we are manufacturing products in the UK and trading with the EU. It sets out the principle of zero tariffs and quotas and builds on World Trade Organization principles. It sets out the rules of origin and sets out the conditions for goods to conform. It addresses the technical barriers to trade, establishes conditions for all types of goods, special measures, and trading conditions and regulation. So we know we're getting zero tariffs and zero quotas, but there are conditions attached. And these are the rules of origin, and they have been defined in Part 2 of the FCA. They enable the EU to maintain their flow of income from imports from countries outside the agreement. And it means you could end up having two lots of tariff apply to your product. Understanding them enables you to make good supply chain decisions. So really, rules of origin talk about the amount of non-originating materials you can put into your products and still have the origin of the product as UK. So to obtain free tariffs and no quotas, the product has to originate from the UK. And this works from the EU to the UK as well. But of course we know that to produce a product, you need raw materials from all over the world. So we have something called the rules of origin. And in the rules of origin, we apply something called Maxnom, which is the maximum non-originating materials. So it allows for an amount of non-originating materials, i.e. raw materials from around the world, to be added to a product to create a new product, which can then be established as originating from either the EU or the UK, whichever way the product is being traded. For example, the Maxnom is calculated by the value of the non-originating materials, and that is literally the value of those products to be used in production. There are some extra parts of the value chain that you can add to that, but again, check out on 425. It will tell you there exactly what you can apply in terms of that cost. So for example, you might add £50 worth of product that comes in from China. You then apply manufacturing process and some other raw materials that come from the UK, which account for £150 worth of value. So in the end, the product is worth £200. So the ex-works value is £200. That's what you're selling it to the third party for. And that will include your production costs, as I said, all the raw materials, and a reasonable amount for your margin. And that will be fine. You can find what the percentages you're allowed through your commodity codes. And going forward, that will be in the tariff commodity code system. However, at the moment, that's still not up to date. You can find in the agreement from page 479 a table that shows you all the commodity codes and what percentage of Maxnom you can have. And this varies from product to product, but sits somewhere between 40 and 60%. So what's bilateral cumulation? It's been agreed that there can be some EU input that can be classified as UK input for your Maxnom purposes, and vice versa. So UK input can be classed in EU manufacture as well as EU input. And there are requirements that must satisfy in the production process. And I've given an example there of a product being imported from Germany, into Germany from China, which is then changed in production in Germany sufficiently to meet its Maxnom levels. So you've then got a completely new product, which is German originating. Then that's sent to a UK manufacturer who produces a third product, and it can apply then the German input and the UK input as UK origin. So it becomes UK origin in the final stage. So what you do need to remember is there are some restrictions. You cannot just bring a product in from China and then put it into your package and then send it on into Europe. That is insufficient production. You'll find details of insufficient production on page 30 of the agreement, and that's under Article Origin 7, insufficient production. There's quite a few restrictions on there as well, so you do need to be aware of that. You have to actually put some real value into the raw materials before they can change into a new product. Other things to consider, we haven't mentioned remanufactured goods, but please check this on if you are taking a product and remanufacturing it. That's slightly different to raw materials. Page 19, note 3, if you are bringing product in from Europe or anywhere else to be repaired and then sold elsewhere, then again, page 19, note 3. Rules of Origin, chapter 2 starts at page 27 of the agreement, and we talk about cumulation. I mentioned bilateral cumulation, which is what that is. It's on chapter 2, obviously, but that's on page 28. So they talk about that quite early on. And then the insufficient production, I mentioned earlier, page 30. Statement of origin, you have to state when you export the product, a statement of origin, and that tells you how to do that and what you should include in that. That's on page 35. And importantly, record keeping, because you are expected to keep records for a minimum period of time so that you can be re-audited if necessary. So you have to be clear that your statement of origin is correct and that you've got evidence to prove the origin status. So I will mention Percy pigs. This is a little bit of a red herring, to be honest, but it was one that you've probably heard about. It's been talked about a lot in social media and online. But this quote comes from Joe Marshall of the Institute for Government. You can check out that website. It's actually a good website, really good comment on there, useful resource. And basically what happened was that M&S currently import Percy pigs from Germany. They take them out of customs control in the UK and repackage them, and then send them off to the Republic of Ireland to sell in their stores in the Republic of Ireland. Now the question arose around the rules of origin. Is this product a German product or is it a UK product? Well, unfortunately for M&S, the insufficient production element of the rules of origin came into play here, and it said repackaging was not sufficient. You're not changing the Percy pigs inherently from a Percy pig to anything else. The question arose, should tariffs apply? Because it's not a UK origin product, it's a German origin product. So M&S stopped shipping these to the Republic of Ireland initially. The purpose of rules of origin is to ensure that the EU still get the tariffs and the income they would have otherwise have got from importing goods from countries where tariffs applied. And moving goods from Germany to the Republic of Ireland would not have inherently incurred tariffs or quotas. So whilst I haven't been able to find the final decision on that, that's pretty much where that decision is likely to sit. So it won't incur additional tariffs or quotas. So M&S are probably fine on that. But it will push the cost up. Brexit will push the cost up of that product because M&S will have been paying import VAT to bring them in from Germany, and then there'll be import VAT applicable on them when they get to the Republic of Ireland. So moving on to standards, CE and UKCA standards. From the 1st of January 2021, the UKCA standard is now mandatory, but there is a period of a year, transition period of a further year up to the 31st of December 2021 to allow businesses to adapt and change and comply with the product. So for this year, you can have either CE marks, you can have UKCA marks to sell in the UK. You can have either, or you can have both, doesn't matter, as long as your product has met the requirements of the particular standards. Now, for the time being, these standards will be mirrored. And we hear a lot about the level playing field, etc. And this was to satisfy the requirements of the level playing field. Longer term standards may diverge, so we will see. After the 31st December 21, to sell your product in the UK, you've got to have UK CA marking on there, and to sell products in the EU, you must continue to have CE marking. The UK CA mark will not be accepted in the EU to be able to sell your product. So what does that actually mean for you as a business if you're selling in both markets? Well, basically, you have got to have your product approved in both markets. You can no longer have a UK approval body approve for CE marking. They will only be able to approve for UK CA marking, and vice versa. So it means that you've got to now go through two processes of approval, one for Europe with a European approved body, and one for the UK with a UK approved body. And unfortunately, that does increase the cost to your business. The good news that comes out of this is that you can have dual marking on your product. So if you're concerned about having to change your production process to show on your packaging UK CA marking and CE marking separately, you don't have to have separate packaging. You can show both marks, but of course you have to have the assessments done in advance and approval given to be able to do that. So the way forward, and whilst there's a lot of issues around at the moment, we've got problems with COVID-19, we've now got Brexit as well, building cost in your business and changing the markets you're in. I thought it was important to open a discussion about the way your businesses can move forward. Now, to do so, we need funds. So I've brought along today two colleagues who can talk about different grant funding routes that you could take to help your business grow and develop. And particularly if you're looking at a strategic change in your supply chain because of rules of origin, you might start to look for new supply chains in the UK. But I just would warn you there, buying a raw material from China off a third party in the UK doesn't mean it's a UK product, it's still a Chinese product. You do need to consider your supply chain potentially going forward and be very careful and wary of that. But I thought I'd bring along my two colleagues to talk about the ways you can raise funds and help your businesses grow.